This presentation, titled The Future of Accreditation with Google Glasses, comes to us from Mr. Kim Leighton. Kim is the Section Manager for Food and Biologicals at JAS-ANZ, where he has oversight of certification schemes in this sector, under which third-party certification bodies are assessed and accredited by JAS-ANZ. He provides support and engagement with certification bodies and scheme owners in the development and implementation of certification requirements. He is also engaged with key national and international stakeholders in supporting accredited certification to ensure food safety and facilitate domestic and international trade. Kim has an extensive background in food policy and the food regulatory system in Australia, food law and consumer protection legislation, and the development of industry best practice guides and labeling tools to support product quality and safety and to inform consumer choice. He previously worked as the Director of Strategic Policy and Partnerships with the New South Wales Food Authority, where he had responsibility for the development of state and national food policy and legislation and the development of programs with local government and industry. He has also held the positions of Chief Scientific Officer with Food Industry Asia, based in Singapore, Director for Policy and Regulation with the Australian Food and Grocery Council in Australia, and Principal Food Scientist in the Western Australian Department of Health. And with that, take it away, Kim.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you to Exemplar Global for the opportunity to give this presentation and just to outline one of the exciting new projects that JAS-ANZ is looking at for the future of accreditation. But before we get into the presentation, I think it's worthwhile just spending a few minutes just to talk about what JAS-ANZ is. I know that there are a wide number of auditors that have interactions with JAS-ANZ through our accreditation scheme, but there's a lot of people that are not familiar with the things that we do or the breadth of our activities. So just a quick introduction. JAS-ANZ is the joint accreditation scheme for Australia and New Zealand. It's established through an international treaty between Australia and New Zealand, and is responsible to the two parliaments of Australia and New Zealand. Our goals as an organisation are in 4 areas: to provide integrity and confidence to accreditation and certification scheme, to provide support for trade, linkages to international organisations and our peer accreditation bodies, and to support international acceptance of the certification systems. Our range of activities as an accreditation body offer accreditation against management system certification, product certification, personnel certification, inspection, and GHG verification and validation. Our scope of activities is much broader than just limited to the food area, although this is obviously a food conference, but covers a wide variety of schemes from across the board, including health, business environment, and product certifications. JAS-ANZ is a signatory to the International Accreditation Forum multilateral recognition arrangement, which is an important aspect of supporting international trade through recognition of certification and accreditation schemes. JAS-ANZ supports accreditation for 143 different accreditation certification schemes. Of those, 21 are management systems such as ISO 9001, or in the food area, ISO 22000 or FSSC 22000. There are 98 product schemes, and a lot of the GFSI benchmark schemes such as SQF, BRC, or other related product schemes such as the Fresh Care or Global Gap schemes. There are 11 personnel schemes, 9 inspection schemes, and 4 GHG verification schemes. Our focus is on providing independent assessment of third-party certification body conformance with scheme requirements. Our accreditation involves a document review, office assessment, and witnessing of auditors conducting third-party audits, and this is conducted against the requirements that are set down in the ISO standards. For example, ISO standard 17021 for the conformity assessment of conformity bodies providing accreditation certification to management schemes, or the ISO standard 17024 or 17065, which is similar schemes specifically related to their particular areas. Okay, so wearable technology. Wearable wireless technology is definitely here and has been for quite a number of years. You're probably well familiar with the availability of a variety of technologies, whether it's glasses or wristwatches. Smart glasses with built-in video and audio capability offer real-time two-way communication via live streaming, making, from JAS-ANZ's perspective, the assessment of auditor performance without needing to physically be in the room with the auditor a possibility. And from that perspective, we are looking at how this trial can support that process. We're working with two well-established technology providers in this area. The first, Coronex. Their wearable division provides a range of wearable IoT devices to improve the capability of mobile personnel. Coronex is a Google developer partner for Glass Enterprise in the Indo-Pacific region and is currently working with the mining industry and defence technology enterprise providers. The second company that we're working with is iSucceed. iSucceed have been working in this area for a number of years, specifically with the food industry, providing innovative solutions to address food industry challenges, and particularly providing support in terms of auditor and staff training and development. Our objective in conducting this evaluation is to determine the usability of smart glass technology and its effectiveness in comparison to having JAS-ANZ staff or technical experts, mentors or supervisors on site during assessments. The trial of the Google glasses is to assess the usability and suitability of the technology across a broad selection of different schemes, and for the use of application in office assessments for witnessing auditors performing third-party certification body audits. And in that context, this is certainly beyond simply looking at food schemes, and we'll be looking at the full range of schemes or selection of the range of schemes across the different areas that JAS-ANZ operates. The trial will evaluate the ongoing cost of the Google glasses and supporting software, the associated courier costs, potential additional costs through providing internet access, mobile phones, or in comparison to the cost of deploying staff on site. Some of the key considerations that we need to take into account when evaluating the technology is the confidentiality or the protection of confidentiality, security, intellectual property of clients, and ensuring the privacy of client staff while ensuring the access to the internet or through Wi-Fi. These are some of the considerations that are laid out in the IAF mandatory document number 4 on remote assessments. We'll also take into account the usability for the wearer, its visual impacts, video, audio clarity, the impact on wearing the glasses for the person, both the auditor and the JAS-ANZ assessors, and the potential impact on PPE and the need for being able to wear the glasses with supporting safety glasses or hearing protection where that's required. We'll be looking at the usability for the remote viewer, the clarity, the limits of observations, background noise, ease of giving instructions, applicability and the applicability for translation. We'll also be looking at getting feedback from the certification body's auditors on use and applicability, and on certification body's client, whether their feedback is on any concerns or use of the technology on site. It's worth mentioning what is out of scope for this evaluation. The trial will not include the assessment of smart glass technologies for the use by certification bodies or their auditors in conducting remote auditing of businesses. This is about the use of the technology for JAS-ANZ purpose in accreditation of auditors and certification bodies only. That means that the competency of auditors to perform a remote assessment is out of scope, and certification body auditors must be physically present on site for all assessments. Certification body clients being audited will not be asked to wear the Google glasses. This will be limited to auditors and to JAS-ANZ assessors only. And finally, the augmented reality and other visual aids that are capable of being utilised through these glasses will not be part of the assessment. This will simply be a simple video and audio live streaming feed only for the assessment. We'll just look at how some of the information and what information will be shared during these assessments. Firstly, the evaluations that JAS-ANZ will be involved with the certification bodies are real. These are real assessments, and the normal JAS-ANZ feedback process to certification bodies will be provided, along with identifying non-conformities that must be addressed. All information contained in the evaluation reports is confidential and will not be shared outside of the JAS-ANZ and client certification body relevant to the specific report. There will be no audio, no video, and no photographic recording used by these devices or by the remote assessors. All assessment and live and remote use of the glasses is conducted live with internet access. No recording will be taken for later viewing to ensure that the intellectual property and the privacy rights of the clients are preserved. The Google glasses will be assessed using a checklist, and the performance checklist does not contain information that is confidential to the client or to the certification body. It principally relates to the performance of the glasses and how it impacts on the assessment. So the summary information and the conclusions from the checklist responses will be shared with the CAB and with the technology provider. Where problems are identified during the evaluation, information will be shared with the technology providers to try to resolve the problems as they occur or through the process of the evaluation, rather than waiting to the completion of the evaluation process. Now, just a word about the JAS-ANZ assessors and our technical experts. JAS-ANZ uses a number of contractors located around the world to support our assessment requirements. And while the logistics of sending the glasses outside of Australia and New Zealand may be challenging, it will certainly be considered as part of the assessment, and depending on where the CAB clients are located. There are opportunities for JAS-ANZ contractors to participate in this evaluation, and this will depend on the participating certification body and the location of their clients. JAS-ANZ staff will be involved at several points in the evaluation, either as the remote assessor, as the on-site assessor using the glasses, or as supervisors, mentors, or peer evaluators. JAS-ANZ technical experts will also be invited to participate in the assessment as a remote viewer, providing input and support to the JAS-ANZ assessor on-site. The remote viewing JAS-ANZ assessor will not simultaneously have a remote viewing technical expert. In other words, if the JAS-ANZ assessor is remote and the CAB auditor is wearing glasses, the certification client that is being assessed will need to be one where a technical expert is not required. A technical expert cannot be on site physically without a JAS-ANZ assessor. So the assessment process. JAS-ANZ remote assessors will conduct the witness assessment of an audit or an office assessment of a certification body remotely in order to effectively determine the performance of the auditor and the compliance of the certification bodies, that they will be conducting a normal JAS-ANZ assessment. There will be a JAS-ANZ on-site observer physically present where there is a remote assessment, and will review the remote assessor's report and compare the report against their notes for comparison to determine if the JAS-ANZ remote assessor has effectively captured all of the information. The JAS-ANZ remote technical expert or supervisor will support the on-site JAS-ANZ remote assessor to complete the assessment report, while the technical expert and the supervisor will separately provide notes about their observations on the performance of the glasses. The JAS-ANZ remote peer evaluator will report on the performance of the JAS-ANZ assessor, as well as providing notes on the performance of the glasses. So all of the participants will complete a checklist on the performance and the use of the glasses using a simple scoring from 1 to 5 on a set of questions based on functionality, usability, and access. The feedback will also be invited from the CAB auditor and their client on the impact of the glasses during the audit process. So it is intended that the questionnaire will be quick and easy to fulfill. So just look into the logistics on how the assessments will be arranged. We're looking at conducting a maximum of 9 witnessed audits and 3 certification body office assessments where either the certification body's auditor or the certification office manager will be wearing the glasses, and the JAS-ANZ assessor will be remote from the site, witnessing the audit or conducting the office assessment. The JAS-ANZ observer will be on site to independently observe the audit for the remote assessments, and the JAS-ANZ observer will transport the glasses to the site and retrieve the glasses. So the CAB is not responsible for receiving or sending the glasses at any point. For all of the other assessments, the JAS-ANZ assessor will wear the glasses and will be responsible for them. So JAS-ANZ will have some logistical requirements to transport or arrange the transport of the glasses to contractors where the JAS-ANZ is using contractors to conduct that assessments. There will be a maximum of 24 witnessed audits at client locations and 12 office assessments of certification body offices proposed to be allocated between June and October of 2020. Preferably, we would prefer to use the certification body office assessments of 12 of the certification bodies involved in the audit, witnessed audits. So just how the trial will operate. The first part of that question is what type of activity, whether it's a witnessed audit at a client site or a certification body office audit. And you can see from that there's 12 office audits and 24 witnessed audits. And then the second question here is who will be wearing the glasses? So on the left, firstly, you can see the CAB client is specifically excluded from wearing the glasses in this trial. Then you've got the CAB auditor. There are 9 events where the CAB auditor wears the glasses and 3 where the office manager wears the glasses. That's where the JAS-ANZ assessor will be remotely viewing the assessment, and the JAS-ANZ observer will be on site to provide a comparison. To the right, you can see the JAS-ANZ assessor will be wearing the glasses in 24 events. Of those, the next question is whether there will be live support provided to the JAS-ANZ assessor through either the remote technical expert in 9 audits or 3 office assessments, and the remote trainer or mentor in 3 office assessments or 3 witnessed assessments. And the last is where there is no support provided to the JAS-ANZ assessor. It's simply an observation of their performance through a peer evaluation. And in that scenario, there will be a JAS-ANZ observer on site to provide a comparison. So when we're looking at the clients that certification bodies might be selecting to conduct the office assessments, we can break it down into 3 different types. That may depend on, present its own difficulties in terms of whether the glasses can be used in those environments, and we'll need to have those discussions both with the certification bodies and the clients. So the first one is where you've got high risk certification client. That risk may be associated with travel to locations that have security issues, or maybe risks to personal safety, for example, disease, disaster, or other issues. There is probably a reasonably current issue occurring where that's some good examples where it presents those difficulties in accessing sites, but at the moment I think that also presents difficulty for the certification body to send auditors there as well. Those also have, there may be sites that have specific requirements for skills or physical attributes to be able to conduct those audits. Then we have areas that have restricted access, sites that may require physical skills and attributes or include vaccination. So, for example, being able to access an abattoir may require specific vaccinations in Australia, for example, to cure fever or other animal diseases. Sites with elevated security managed through controlled access, such as prisons or defence facilities, where you have not only security but intelligence requirements, and sites that have restrict access to protect the emotional or physical well-being of the clients, and that potentially outside of the food area could involve clients such as children or working with vulnerable clients such as other disability patients. Then we have normal risk and access, so most commercial and industrial sites that have restricted access to control movement and security on the site, but not particularly prohibitive in gaining access, and not particularly prohibitive in terms of access to Wi-Fi, should that be a requirement. So we need to consider those issues in terms of the potential impact on the trial and whether that's suitable or applicable to be able to discuss with their clients. As I said earlier, we're looking at conducting a maximum of 24 client locations for witness assessment, preferably 1 certification body per client, in order to try to spread both the workload across the widest variety of certification bodies, and also to give the greatest opportunity of exposure and real-life scenarios. We're looking at a maximum of 12 certification body office assessments, again, partly in terms of scheduling and also the logistics of working with certification bodies to make those opportunities happen in that limited time frame. Our preference is to work with certification bodies globally, and we've invited participation in the study to all certification bodies, including those outside of Australia and New Zealand. Certification bodies are invited to nominate which schemes that they would like to conduct the trial in. And then sites will be identified and site operators briefed on the proposed use of the technology to seek their approval prior to conducting the audit. So at the moment we have a survey currently that is being distributed across all of our certification bodies that will be completed by the middle of February, so that we can evaluate which certification bodies have nominated and what the schemes are, and we can identify where we can be trying to schedule and work with those evaluations. Just to give you an outline of the checklist, what we're looking at, and as I said before, this intended to rate this from 1 to 5, from poor to excellent. The checklist is intended to be able to be completed within a matter of 5 to 10 minutes at the completion of the audit. So first, on-site vision, obstruction of vision or impact on vision, distraction to or interruption to an audit flow, whether the glasses work with safety glasses if required on site, and if there are issues in terms of lighting and or shadows creating difficulties with the glasses. The next is the usability, the length of the time that the glasses could be used, both in terms of battery life and also in terms of the user wearing the glasses. The comfort of fit is an important aspect of it, as is the impact on the time required for the assessment if using the glasses were to add an additional time component. The on-site audio, whether there is the ability to hear instructions or comments from the remote viewer under normal office environment or in an operating work environment, given issues of background noise. The audio from the glasses, whether it is distracting or interrupting the flow of the audit and distracting to the client. And finally, the mobile internet connection, the strength, stability and variability of the connection, the ability to connect to the internet. And the last component is feedback from the CAB auditor or the client at the close of the audit, and whether the glasses were distracting to the audit process, and if the auditor felt that the JAS-ANZ remote viewer was effective with the Google glasses. The checklist for the remote viewer will follow a similar framework. On-screen vision, that they're able to see the physical objects close up, if they're able to see physical objects at a distance, if they're able to see physical objects in low lighting, if they're able to identify defects with the sight or with objects, or if they're able to read relevant text reports or documents. And that obviously is particularly important in the office assessment, as well as looking at records of for critical control points or other documents that are observed during the audit process. The usability, the length of time that the glasses could be used, battery life obviously is one of those features. If they felt the vision was good as physically being present, whether the wearer of the glasses spent enough time looking at all of the locations that the remote viewer needed to see. With the remote audio, if they're able to hear the conversation between the person wearing the glasses and the client or others in the room, if they're able to talk to the person wearing the glasses and ask for information or provide direction, if they're able to provide, if the background noise in an operating environment does not prevent hearing conversations. And finally, the mobile internet connection, strength, stability, variability, the ability to connect to the internet. Just looking at use and access. So firstly, JAS-ANZ will, before we develop the trial or implement the trial in a live environment, we'll be looking to develop a short instructional troubleshooting guide. We'll be doing a pre-evaluation of the glasses to assist the wearer and the site viewer. We're looking at providing technical support, login access for remote viewers where they're not based in the JAS-ANZ office, and that is an important aspect of this trial. Remote viewers will need to be able to confirm that they have access to the internet in a secure and private facility and confirm confidential arrangements. So I'll mention that a little bit further on as well. The Google glasses need to be continuously operating throughout the audit, although the glasses may be turned off and recharged during lunch breaks or may need an additional battery pack to provide extended duration. Now, this depends on the duration of the audit. An audit may be a half-day audit, or it may be a 2-hour audit, or it may be an 8-hour audit. It depends on the type of audit that the glasses are being used for. Our normal use expectation is that the glasses should be able to support a normal 8-hour workday. We're looking at internet connectivity for the Google glasses needing a 4G mobile connectivity, and at this option, we're looking at providing a 4G pocket Wi-Fi modem for use, or where there is no internet through a lack of mobile data facilities, that we can arrange for the client to provide local Wi-Fi if there is a dedicated landline. We're looking at how to manage some of the risks associated with the trial. And one of the key considerations is where we have a technology failure, which could mean that the assessment would not be able to be conducted. And when would this happen? Well, if the assessment required input from the technical expert or the JAS-ANZ assessor was working remotely, or if the JAS-ANZ assessor is a trainee and must work under supervision, and the JAS-ANZ supervisor is remote. And why would the technology fail? Well, battery failure, or just simply that the battery in the glasses does not last long enough for the duration of the audit. A lack of Wi-Fi or mobile signal, the inability of the network provider to provide a stable video audio signal, damage to the glasses, or a failure of the courier to deliver the glasses on time to the contractors, or a failure to access the video portal remotely. So we're looking at how to mitigate some of these problems. And for the trial, the technical expert and the JAS-ANZ supervisor, where they are providing support to the JAS-ANZ assessor, will be required to travel to the remote location and to view the assessment from either a hotel or from an airport lounge where a secure room is available. And if there is a problem with the trial, the technology fails, that they are within a reasonably short distance to be able to travel to the site so that the assessment can continue rather than have the assessment abandoned. Where the JAS-ANZ assessor is on site and does not require a JAS-ANZ supervisor, that they can then continue the evaluation if the technology has failed. So, if we have other scenarios, so the courier fails to deliver the package to the JAS-ANZ observer, and the JAS-ANZ assessor is on site and able to witness the audit, then they will carry on with the audit and just simply reschedule an assessment with the glasses to another assessment, and the outcome will not form part of the trial. If the JAS-ANZ assessor is remote, then there will be a JAS-ANZ observer scheduled to be on site. That observer will now become the JAS-ANZ assessor and complete the assessment without the glasses. Obviously, they're rescheduled. If during the course of the evaluation the glasses batteries fail before completing the audit, so there may be some options. We may be able to recharge the glasses, and depending on if there has been sufficient audit conducted, and we can still carry on with the audit, witnessing the audit remotely, that we obviously can conduct that, or if that can be addressed through using an external battery pack to recharge the glasses. That may also be an option for us. Where the glasses are not functional, but the majority of the audit has been conducted, for example, it may be down to the closing meeting, the last component of the assessment, that could be conducted as a phone-in, so the JAS-ANZ remote assessor can still determine that the requirements of the closeout has been conducted. That may be an alternative as well. So a little bit of flexibility around those arrangements, depending on the scenario. If the site construction or the design prevents the mobile signal, either in part or throughout the physical site, but you still have access to the mobile signal at the offices in the office component, then the glasses will obviously need access to a mobile 4G network. But if there's no network there, then we'd look to see if we can access the client site local Wi-Fi if they have a local Wi-Fi. If neither of those are available, then if the JAS-ANZ technical expert or supervisor are remote, they'll need to be brought on site to continue the assessment. If the assessor is remote, then the JAS-ANZ observer becomes the assessor for the component that the site obstruction is a problem, and then the remote assessor reverts back to being witnessed. In both the scenarios, the evaluation of the glasses may need to be rescheduled. Okay, if the glasses can't connect to the 4G mobile network. Check that the pocket modem is charged and turned on. Run through the reboot procedures, restart options, check the connections, all the basic sort of things that we would expect to have to set up. And if there's still no mobile data connection, no mobile Wi-Fi, then call the JAS-ANZ office to see if there's another solution. If we've got no solution, the assessor is on site, then carry on with the audit. If the assessor is remote and the TE or the JAS-ANZ supervisor comes to the site, and the site continues, site office or assessment continues. If the site has restricted areas being audited, the glasses can't be worn due to whatever the prohibitions may be. The JAS-ANZ assessor on site with a remote JAS-ANZ TE or supervisor then will need the remote staff to be brought on site to continue. If the JAS-ANZ assessor is remote and the JAS-ANZ observer becomes the assessor and continues the assessment in the areas being witnessed, but reconnects the glasses once out of the restricted zone and continues the assessment remotely. Where the office and the witnessed audit activity cannot be scheduled in the June to October period. Firstly, we'll assess whether there is sufficient activity being conducted to make a determination on the evaluation of the glasses, and if there is any significant issue that needs to be identified with further investigation. An option may be given to extend the trial if there are issues that have been identified and further evidence is needed. Otherwise, we will work to complete the trial as is. So when will all of this happen? Well, first step is a pre-test evaluation and troubleshooting with JAS-ANZ, and we'll be conducting that from late March through April to be concluded in May. We're looking to provide training for our assessors, both our contractors and JAS-ANZ staff, in May, completed by June. And we're looking to conduct the witnessed audits and office assessments in the June to October period. So in the April through June period, we'll also be working with JAS-ANZ schedulers and certification bodies to identify the office audits and the witnessed audits in June and October, and we're working to try to schedule those for that time period. Our evaluation and the preparation of the draft report will be conducted in November with the objective of presenting that to the JAS-ANZ board at their December meeting. So that covers the concept of what we're looking at, timings and how it will run. If you need more information about JAS-ANZ, there's information there about our website. Certainly happy for you to contact me directly or contact through the Canberra office. And with that, thank you very much for the opportunity to present this presentation. Thank you for watching.
And thank you, Kim Leighton, for that exceptionally perceptive presentation on the use of Google Glasses for accreditation within the food sector. And that concludes this presentation.